Hello, everyone. Welcome to...
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the CSL webinar. I want to thank you all for attending. For those of you who have been to the ones in our past series, thank you for returning. And for those of you that are new, we hope you enjoy yourself and you come back for future events. Just to give you a little bit of background, particularly for those who haven't been here before, basically the audience is in a silent mode, but you can ask questions if you want to. There is a chat feature, so as we're going through, you can ask questions as we go along. We'll answer those to the best of our ability. And then we usually leave a Q&A session opened at the end of the session to get a little bit more in-depth into some of the issues. Also, we're going to be doing some polling questions as we go through the presentation, just to get a better sense of your interests, in this particular case, your experience in the industry, things of that nature. So once again, thank you for attending, and let me just give you a little bit of background. I'm Kevin Loretto. I'm the Director of Sales for Creative Stage Lighting. We put this webinar series together about 2 years ago, basically to provide information about the industry, products, changing trends, things of that nature for our customers and also their customers as well. So basically informational in nature. We've had a variety of presenters that have worked with us over that period of time. Richard Cadena has been one of our regular presenters. We want to thank Richard for that. He's done multiple sessions with us already. We want to thank him for being here with us today. We thought it only appropriate to have Richard back since we're kicking off the new 2011 series. We took a little bit of time off in 2010, and we're coming back with a new full series this year. And he was the one who helped us kick off with our inaugural session about 2 years ago. Richard picked today's topic as a great kickoff to get this series jump-started again. And as many of you know, Richard is the technical editor for PLSN.
Can I just jump in here a minute, Kevin?
Sure, Richard, go right ahead.
I'm the editor of PLSN and for the duration of February. I have handed in my resignation. I'll be working. Actually, I resigned in order to spend more time training and writing, and I've also taken a position with Plaza. I will be an assistant technical standards manager and a contributing editor to Protocol, Lighting and Sound America, and Lighting and Sound International, just to give you guys an update.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I know that's always been a real strong suit of yours and a passion to do more in the area of training and also to get into a lot of the technical issues. So I think that's a great opportunity for you, and I'm sure the audience is going to follow you closely, and it'll it'll give them a lot of opportunity to get more in touch with the industry. Okay, so if it's okay with you, Richard, we'll go ahead and we'll get started.
Absolutely.
So, Richard, tell me this whole concept of Survival 101. Why do you think that you're the right person to conduct the seminar and talk about some of these issues?
Well, I've had a period. I've written a lot of books and I've had a lot of success in the industry, but there was a long dry spell for me. I was laid off twice, once in 1998 and then again in 1999, and it took me a very long time to rebuild my career, and I kind of reinvented myself. And it was one of those things where I was in the process of rebuilding. I had a company called Marathon Marketing, and I was selling lighting equipment. And we came upon one of the Great Recessions, not this one, but a previous one in 2000, where the stock market tanked and the economy was really in the ditch. And the worst part, I think, was the summer of 2000, and business slowed to a crawl, and I was kind of sweating BBs trying to make it through and trying to make ends meet and everything. And just as the summer ended, the business started picking up, the phone started ringing again, and I thought, wow, I've made it. I'm going to be able to go from here and pay my bills. Everything will work out fine. And then along comes, that was on September 10th, and along comes 9/11, and the business just really just stopped. And so I made a decision to go to work for, I closed my company, went to work for Hubble Entertainment. That didn't quite work out. And so that's when I started working for PLSN. But in the meanwhile, I had to really examine my life and what I was doing right, what I was doing wrong, and try to figure out how to get back on track. And so therefore, it's not like I've had a straight line in my career at all. It's been very circuitous, and it's been very trying at times. So for that reason, I thought that I could take some of the things that I've learned over the years and bring them to people who are in the industry and who are trying to survive it and thrive in it. And the layoffs in 9/11 were one matter, but another matter that is continually challenging us right now is just all the change in the industry. There's a tremendous amount of change going on right now. From about 25 years ago, when we had conventional lighting, we started using automated lighting, and that was a big enough change in and of itself. Automated lighting was new, and it was exciting, and it was fun, but it was also very challenging. So a lot of old-timers just couldn't adjust and got out of the business. And then there were those of us who adjusted very well. And then along comes the convergence of lighting and video, and now we're trying to figure out how to deal with media servers. And we're talking about lighting people, who were used to pulling big handles on dimmers, right? Now we're dealing with media servers, we're dealing with the network, we're dealing with LEDs and video protocols and formats and codecs and all these kinds of things, So that's a continuing challenge for all of us right now. So the whole idea behind this seminar is to help people, especially the younger people, figure out how to get from point A to point B, how to figure out where they're going to go in their careers, where they're going to take their careers, and basically how to get there. So to get started, what I'd like to ask you all to do, everybody who is online with us right now and who's viewing this seminar afterwards in recorded format, I'd like for you to take a piece of paper and a pencil right now and do a little exercise. And now I know exercise is a four-letter word to some of you. That's okay. It's this is going to be fun. It's not really difficult. All I'd like for you to do is to write down what your goals are. There's a guy named Dr. Stephen Covey who wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And habit 2 of the 7 habits, he says, is to begin with an end in mind. So just like you wouldn't start a cross-country trip without a map, nor should you start your career without a map. Or if you're midway through your career, you should still have a map. So what I'd like for you to do is basically sketch out a little map here and just daydream a little bit, and don't self-edit. Don't try to limit yourself. Just ask yourself, what is it that I'd like to be doing, and then write it down. It's as simple as that. So it's just a little goal-setting exercise that will help you visualize what your goals are. And then once you figure that out, then you can figure out exactly how to get there. So the question is, where do you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years? Or you can make it a longer timeline or a shorter horizon. It's up to you. But just as a guideline, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, what would you like to be doing? What position would you like to be in? How much money would you like to be making? What kind of technologies would you like to be working with? Okay. So,
and the other thing, Richard, while they're taking a minute to do that, one of the things I'd like to do is do one of our first polling questions. And
sure.
As they finish their questions, just let's take a look and see what kind of industry experience are we looking at here. So the question is, how many years in the industry do you currently have? And your selections are 0 to 1, 1 to 3 years, 4 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, or 10 plus years. And this will just give us an idea of the experience level of the people that are here. Give us an idea, how to talk to some of your specific issues going forward. Right now, it looks like we've got a lot of experienced people in the room. I think that's surprising because I think Richard and I thought we were going to have a lot of people that were just coming in, but looks like we got about 50% of the people that have 10 years plus experience in the industry, 34% that are 6 to 10 years, 6% that are 4 to 5 years, 3% 1 to 3, and 6% that are 0 to 1 year. So I'll give everybody
that's interesting.
and I'll give everybody another minute to continue to fill this out. And yeah, I think one of the things that's interesting, about what you were talking about, Richard, too, is as we're looking at the industry changing, and as we're looking at what our goals are and what do we need to be doing going forward, I think one of the things that a lot of us are seeing is that there's really a paradigm shift. Like as you were saying, the things that worked 20 years ago for people in the industry are not the same things that are working for them today. So even for the veterans that have been in the industry 10 or more years, they're seeing a lot of dramatic change, and they need to also be thinking about, how are they going to be adjusting going forward.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I was just talking to somebody the other day. We're talking about fax machines, because I remember a time when fax machines were new, and a lot of people didn't want to invest the money in them until they figured out that their competition was, and they were getting their orders in faster. They were getting in, doing their business a lot quicker. And finally, I think it probably took about 5 years, and then the last holdouts finally invested in a fax machine. Now there are people who won't get rid of their fax machines, which I think is interesting. That some people would still rather send a fax order in than to email it. And
right.
Even though email is much quicker, more efficient, so that's just another example of what you just said, Kevin. So, times change. You have to change with the times. The technology changes. You have to embrace it and adapt it.
Right, exactly.
But the poll results are really interesting. So what I'll do, because we're so heavily weighted towards more experienced people, what I want to do is I want to focus on not just some of the changes that are coming up, but also how to excel in your job. And so my question to you is, and you've done the goal setting exercise, so now what's your goal? Do you want to be, in terms of where you want to be in the industry, do you want to be in the middle of the pack, which means basically if there's 2 people in the room, either one could be at the top of that 50%, right? Or do you want to be in the top 25%, meaning are you the best, sharpest, most advanced person in the room? Do you want to be in the top 10%, which means maybe tops in your company? Or do you want to be in the top 1%, which is 1 in 100, which is might be tops in your company, might be tops in your city, maybe your state if it's a small state? Or do you want to really be top of the industry? Now, that's something else that you should probably either write down or at least lock into your head. Where do I want to be in terms of percentages in the industry? And if you say you want to be top of the industry, you have to be aware that it's going to take a lot of hard work to get there. There's a guy named Richard St. John who wrote a book about what it takes to be successful, and there's a great video on TED.com. And the 7 things that he says that it takes to be successful is passion, work, doing good, focus, push, serving somebody, ideas, and persistence. So if you commit to wanting to be the top of the industry, then just be aware that it's going to take a lot of those 7 things.
Okay, so while you were talking about that, Richard, I went ahead and launched our second poll, which is, where do you see yourself in the industry in the next 10 years? And so we're getting some feedback right now. I'll give everybody a chance to go ahead and get their votes in. We're at about 65% right now. Usually we get about a 90% participation rate, so I'll give you a couple of more minutes.
And we should say that this is anonymous, right, Kevin?
Oh, it's so I can just see numbers changing. I can't see who's casting anything. So
don't worry about, nobody's going to track you. Nobody's going to hold you to this or anything. We're daydreaming here.
Yeah. Only the guys who say they want to be in the middle of the pack. We're going to come back and look them up.
Exactly. So feel free to just daydream here, okay? Nobody's going to hold you to this. And while we're doing that, are we getting some feedback yet, Kevin?
Yep. I could share it with you. It looks like right now we got about 15% that want to be middle of the pack. We got about 30% that are looking to be in the top 25. By far and away, our biggest percentage is 42% want to be in the top 10%, and 15% are looking to be in the top 1%.
Okay, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with being okay with middle of the pack. You know, that's fine. We have lives, we have families we have to take care of. But the one thing we want to be careful of is not to drop off to the lower half of the pack.
Right.
So that's great. I'm happy to see that some people have lives. You know, so it's that work balance thing, or life and work balance thing, right?
Sure.
So, all right. So while we're still waiting for the results of that poll to finish, I want to go ahead and move on. Now, I'm going to be talking about some things here that are normally not addressed in our industry. People don't normally talk about some of these topics that we're going to address. Now, surely I will talk about some of the technologies that are coming up and some of the things that you need to be aware of, but this is not really a technology seminar. This is about being the best you can be and what you can do to be the best you can be based on my experiences in the industry. And the first thing I want to talk about is exercise. Yes, I said exercise, and by that I mean, you know, if you wake up and you go jog, or you lift weights, or you ride your bicycle, or you do karate, or you swim, or you do yoga, you know, that's one of the best ways to jumpstart not only your body but also your brain, because there's something that happens physiologically that gets your juices flowing, gets your blood flowing to your brain, and it really makes a tremendous amount of difference. I can say firsthand from experience. I've run a few marathons, and I try to include an hour to an hour and a half of exercise in my schedule every single day. I know it's challenging, it's hard. I've done tours before. I know what it's like to be the first guy off the bus pushing road boxes and be the last guy back on the bus because you're, you know, packing up all the gear and everything. And the last thing that you want to do when you get a day off is to think about going and jogging. But if you're in that situation, if you're touring, then you're probably getting a pretty good amount of exercise. But on your days off, you really should get out and go get some fresh air, get some, you know, hit the gym, do something like that. You know, so you should be exercising 30 minutes to an hour and a half every single day. And I would suggest that if you do it first thing in the morning, that's probably the best practice, because if you wait till the afternoon, then chances are something is going to interrupt your schedule and throw you off, and then next thing you know, you won't have time to do it anymore. So if you get it done first thing in the morning, it's done, it's out of the way, and then no matter what happens for the rest of the day, then it's already done, okay? Now, Kevin sent me an interesting article yesterday in which a guy named Jim McKenna from the University of Bristol in the UK said exercise improves job performance. It leads to better time management and improved mental performance. And I can vouch for that. I really believe that exercise does improve your mental performance. In fact, I wrote a brief article about my yoga practice, and I posted it up on my WordPress. There's the link to it. You're welcome to read. It's very short read. But in essence, I heard this program on NPR about how people in college were taking Ritalin and some other brain-enhancing drugs in order to increase their alertness. And that's exactly the type of benefits that I get from yoga. It improves my cognitive function. It helps me focus for long periods of time. It helps my concentration. It increases my productivity. And it also is great for your heart health as well. So, you know, if you really want to excel in your life, not just in your work, but in your life, then you really should be including some exercise in your life. Also, that the yang to the exercise yin is sleep. You need to make sure that you're not sleep deprived, because chronic sleep deprivation can cause all of these things that are listed: confusion, memory lapses, depression, headaches. All of these things happen with chronic sleep deprivation. Now, we're in our industry, it's not uncommon to work long hours. I've worked in the theater before, where you just have time to go home, sleep for 3 or 4 hours, maybe 5 if you're lucky, get up and go back and do it all over again with no days off, or maybe 1 day off if you're lucky, if you have a dark day. But the thing about sleep is that you can catch up. You can't store it up, but you can catch up. So you should be averaging about 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And I think Kevin's going to launch a poll about that as well.
Yep.
Don't you have one, Kevin?
Yep, I got one on that.
Okay.
Let me just go through
Great.
there.
So while the sleep poll is being launched, let me just tell you, there is a great talk on TED.com. Arianna Huffington talks about how to succeed by getting more sleep, and one of the great things she says is that you can sleep your way to the top, and of course that has a different connotation than what you're thinking. What she's saying is that if you get enough sleep, you'll be at your mental peak, you'll be alert, and you'll be much more productive than if you have chronic sleep deprivation. So you really need to sleep your way to the top. How's the poll doing, Kevin?
Looks like most of our guys are pretty much middle of the road. Looks like about 45% are getting 5 to 7 hours. About 50% are in the 7 to 8 hour range. We don't have many that are getting 8+ or more, and we don't have anybody that's getting less than 5. So I guess we're in reasonably good shape there. They're kind of middle of the pack.
Okay, now this doesn't give you permission to sleep 10 hours a day, because that's overdoing it. We don't want to overdo it, right?
Yeah, I think it's kind of tough for anybody in this industry to really get enough. I think that's the key is, between whether you're in the live event side or even on our side of things where we're doing more in the sales arena. We're on the road all the time. We're out on calls all day, out with clients in the evening, usually having to get back to the room and do quotes. So I think it's just not just this industry, but I think this one, maybe more than many, you really do have yourself stretched out a lot. So I think it tends to really take its toll on all of us.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. So you have to be careful. And I'll tell you this, I've had the experience of dealing with people who were acutely sleep deprived. I worked with a programmer once who was bouncing back and forth between Asia and Europe very rapidly. And we had a show in China, and we were in pre-production, we were programming, and he just had a mental breakdown. He started crying. He had to leave the venue. I mean, for no apparent reason, just out of the blue, so just broke down, started crying, and we had to take him and calm him down. We had to take him back to the hotel, let him get some sleep, let him get some food, and that did the trick. There are very few problems in life that can't be solved with a good night's rest and a good meal. So don't let that happen to you.
Yeah.
The next thing I want to talk about is nutrition, because this industry is notorious for, well, the stereotype is that all the stagehands sit around and eat donuts and drink coffee, right? And that's not too far from the truth. It seems like every time there's a meeting or every time somebody brings something in the morning, it's donuts. And of course, there's the huge meals at the end of the day, and the chicken fried steak and the hot dogs, and grab what you can get while you go. But that will take its toll on you. Now, when you're young, when you're if you're under 30, then you probably won't feel the effects of it. But it does wear on you. And if you're under 30, you probably think 30 is far, far away. Well, you'll be surprised one day to wake up and find yourself in that category, over 30. The thing that really did it for me was that my father had a heart attack when he was 52. I was about 20 years old at the time, and that really opened my eyes, because that's when I started learning about nutrition and the ill effects of poor nutrition. And that's when I learned about cardiovascular disease and all the things that go along with constricting your blood vessels and clogging them up with fatty foods. And that's when I kind of got focused on better nutrition. And again, that kind of goes along with the exercise and the sleep habits, and the other leg to that tripod is good nutrition. So just be careful when you're out there. It's so easy when you're traveling to eat poorly, and it's really kind of a challenge to eat healthy when you're out there traveling, when you're touring, when you're on business trips. But it really is important for your long-term survival and thrival in the industry. The next thing I want to talk about is positive mental attitude, and this is just such an easy thing to do, to focus on the good and see the good things rather than to focus on the bad. And when you do that, you'll be amazed at what a difference it makes, because all the people around you don't want to be around an Eeyore. They want to be around people who are happy and optimistic, because that optimism is contagious. So it's really important that you don't spread doom and gloom, but that you keep a positive attitude. Now, some people think that having a positive mental attitude is Pollyannish, and for that reason, I found this article, and there's the link to it right there. It's project-resourceblog.co.uk, and then all those numbers. This blog talks about the 5 or 10 myths of positive mental attitude, and so it's definitely a good read. I would suggest taking the 5 minutes to read that article.
I think one of the keys too, Richard, is that with the way that the economy in general and our business in particular has gone the last couple of years, sometimes that could be easier said than done. So it's something that we really need to be conscious of, and conscious of the way that it potentially affects our work. It's really difficult without having a positive attitude to be goal-oriented, to get as much as we'd like to get accomplished. So I think that all these points that you're talking about really collectively have a major effect on how we do move our career forward and how we do perform our job, and how we see things moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that positive mental attitude is being able to see your future, and it helps to see your future if you practice goal setting. Now, we did that exercise at the top of this webinar, and let me tell you about my experience with goal setting. There was a time when things were going rough, very rough, and I had a new house that came along with a new mortgage. I had a new baby that was about 16 months old, and I wasn't bringing in enough money to make ends meet for a long time, and it was a continuing worry of mine. And I spent many nights staring at the ceiling, couldn't sleep, because I was wondering how I was going to put food on the table, how I was going to raise my family, how I was going to take care of this newborn baby, and whether or not I was going to be able to hang on to the house. And one night, when I couldn't sleep, it was about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I just got out of bed because I couldn't sleep. I was just staring at the ceiling. I came into my office, the one I'm sitting in right now, and I got on the computer, and I did a little exercise in goal setting. And I wrote down my mission, and I felt better. I went back to bed. The next morning, I woke up, jumped out of bed, went down to the Office Depot, and I bought some certificate paper in a frame. I came back and I printed out my mission on the certificate paper. I framed it and hung it, and there it is. It's still hanging on my wall. I can see it. I can almost touch it from where I'm sitting right now. And there's a picture of it that you see. And what it says is, Richard Cadena is a world-renowned author and one of the world's leading experts in the field of automated lighting design, and automated lighting systems design and implementation. Now, do I believe that I'm a world-renowned in anything? No, not really, but do I strive for that? Yes, I do, every single day. And there's my reminder hanging on the wall to, that's my target, that's what I aim for, that's what I shoot for. And that's when I started writing books, and that's when things really started turning around for me. So if you ask me, does PMA really work? I can not only testify to it, I can give you proof. I'll give you my bank account statements if you'd like to see them. It wasn't long after that I had a huge financial turnaround, and I finally got back to that place where I was before, making a much more comfortable living, and I didn't have to worry about a lot of things that I worried about before. So there's your concrete example right there.
I think a lot of us have gone through, similar kind of situations, and it was interesting when you were talking about your experiences because, I know a lot of what I've been, my career has paralleled that, particularly since 9/11. And one of the things that I had made a determination was I was going to get out of the old industry that I was in, and I really wanted to get into entertainment. And so I've only been in this business now 4 years, but I just find it really interesting and creative. And part of that was setting goals for myself and having a focus that I was going to get where I was determined to go.
Yeah, you just said another key word right there, focus, Kevin. And that was one of the things that I want to talk about too, because once you set out your goals, once you put them down on paper, now you can really focus in on them, and it's much easier to achieve that way. I know several people who are very bright, intelligent, creative people that are funny, but never seem to get very far in their career because they are too scattered. They try to do too many things at one time, and they never end up finishing the tasks that they should be working on. Now, having said that, I'm the kind of guy who has several projects going on at one time. I think most of you know that. You can look at my books and my magazine articles and the Academy of Production Technology and the training that I do and so on and so forth. So I do like to have a lot of irons in the fire, but at the same time, as I am working on each of those tasks, then my challenge is to sit down and really get that laser beam focus on it, and that way you can accomplish more. If you look at the slide with the quadrant there, and it kind of got messed up because we had to translate it to PowerPoint from whatever Mac is. But at any rate, what it says, there's 4 different priorities, and you have high priority with high urgency. In the upper left-hand corner, in the upper right-hand corner, you have high priority with low urgency. In the lower left, you have low priority with high urgency. And in the lower right, you have low priority with low urgency. So if you classify each of your tasks, if you write them down and classify them according to those 4 priorities, then it becomes very clear to you then what your top priority should be. And if you focus on those things that are high priority and low urgency, things like how do I educate myself, and how do I get to retirement? How do I put money in the bank? How do I get a better job, or so on and so forth? Those are the things that are high priority, but the hounds aren't barking at the door right now. And then you have the things that are of low priority and high urgency. That would be like when the phone rings and it's the salesman. That's you pick up the phone because it's ringing, so you think it's urgent, and it turns out that it's a very low priority. So if you can somehow screen those things, and people who know me know that sometimes I'm very difficult to get a hold of, right, Kevin?
Oh, yeah.
You can send me an email, and I might not answer for days, and it's not because I don't think you're a high priority. It's that I have other priorities at the present time. Don't take that personally, Kevin.
I don't, because I have the same situation. I think one of the keys about this that we got to realize is it tends to be that the things that are in that in those lower quadrants are actually the things that are high urgency but low priority. Those are generally things that are pushed on us by others.
Exactly.
It's when we lose our focus and we lose track of what our own goals are, because just because it's somebody else's urgency doesn't necessarily always make it a priority. I mean, in our business, obviously, I work a lot with dealers. They have urgency, and that has to be a priority for me because I realize they have jobs to do. They need me to get gear out to them, so I need to work on those things. But I have other times when somebody has something that, in their estimation is high urgency, but it needs to be low priority on my list because it's, as you're mentioning, it's a question that can wait. It doesn't have to be something that needs to be answered immediately. And so I always have to keep in mind that I have to establish my own priorities, not let other people establish them for me.
Yeah, exactly. And in this industry, everything is urgent, right?
Yeah.
The show must go on, and you know, we're just finding out tonight that we need something for tomorrow, so you have to overnight it and rush it. Well, those are the things that are high priority and high urgency, right? And those are probably the vast majority of the tasks that we do in this industry. But if you can make sure that you concentrate equally on the things that are high priority and low urgency, then ultimately in the long run you'll be much better off.
Exactly.
The other thing is drive, and this is one of those 7 things that Richard St. John talks about is drive. And there you can see what was driving me through my low period. That's a picture of me and my daughter when she was born. And at the time, it was really life-changing, and that really made me reestablish my priorities. And every time she would cry, I'd refocus on those priorities. And you know, that I attribute that to one of the main reasons that I was able to push through that very difficult time. So, set your priorities, and then let them drive you. Leave your comfort zone too. It's very easy to become complacent, and I have to say that there was a time when I became complacent early in my career, and my career stalled as a result of it. And I see it going on all the time. I see people who are afraid to take chances, to take risks, and as a result, they end up staying in their comfort zone, but they never advance in their career. Especially if you're younger, then you have more opportunity to recover. You should be less afraid of taking risks. You should take more risks. You know, I've known programmers who were offered jobs as lighting designers and didn't take them because they've never done lighting design before. That's crazy. When you're programming, you are designing lighting. You just haven't written out the plot. You know, and if you just take a little bit of a few steps out of your comfort zone into your discomfort zone, you'll be amazed what it can do for your career. One time somebody called me up and said, "Can you run a Strand 520i?" I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." But the problem was I'd never laid my hands on one before. So I spent the entire night, I printed out the manual and I read it 3 times. I was tired when I went in the next day, but I knew how to get around on the console. Now, had somebody's safety been involved, I would never have done that. But you know, the worst case scenario in this event was that I would be unable to do something. I would get fired. I would get laughed at. Whatever, you know. But at the time, I was willing to take risks, and that one happened to pay off for me. And there are others just like that I've done that have paid off as well. And more often than not, those types of things do pay off when you leave your comfort zone and you take some baby steps outside of your comfort zone to expand your horizons.
Richard, I got a question here from one of the audience that kind of ties into what you're talking about. So it says, I'm currently a student, but I'd like to get into the industry. What type of college education do I need to pursue in order to get into this industry? And, you know, maybe talk a little bit about some of the other things that people either want to get into the industry or want to grow in the industry need to be doing going forward.
Can you tell me this person's name, or is it a secret?
It's a secret. No, honestly, I just can't see it on the screen that I'm looking at, so I apologize.
All right. Well, whoever that is, that's an excellent question, and it's a question that I get asked very often. And I'll tell you, I've changed my views on this because about 5 or 10 years ago, I used to think, and especially as the cost of college has risen, I used to think, you know, if you just took that $40,000 or $100,000 or however much money it takes to get you through college, if you were to take that bundle of money and go out and buy some gear and start a production company, then in 4 years, then you will have educated yourself in the real world, and you will have a sizable pile of gear that is kind of your investment in the future. But the reason that I have changed my stance on that is because I think, just based on my experience, and there are exceptions, I think the average 21-year-old is not ready to own a business. And I think more often than not, that 21-year-old would probably not do well, and the business would not survive. Therefore, that money would be at very high risk and possibly completely lost. So now I think it's much better to find a college that has gear, that has what the type of gear you want to work on. If you want to work in the concert touring industry, find a college like UNLV that has moving lights, that has grandma consoles, that has CompuLight consoles, or has Ava Light consoles, things that are actually being used out in the real world. If you want to be in the concert touring business, then look for the concert touring gear. If you want to be in theater, if you want to work on Broadway, then you need to find a college that has ETC consoles. So, yeah, I do think you're much better off going to college and getting that foundation. Learn the fundamentals. Learn as much as you can about the basics, and that will take you a long way. The next question you're going to ask me, I assume, would be which college should I go to? And I can't answer that for you. You have to figure out what you want to do, and then once you figure out what you want to do, then there are all kinds of solutions to that. So this is a discovery process that you need to go through, and it may be that you may not know what you want to do, in which case just get as much general education as you can. There's lots of great choices. Some of the ones off the top of my head that I know of: Full Sail, UNLV. What other ones are there, Kevin? There's
tons of stuff now that's coming online all the time. There's there's lots of colleges that have really good programs. UCLA, but even a lot now of your local community colleges are starting to have more programs that are focusing more on the entertainment industry, and particularly the technical issues of the entertainment industry.
Yeah, and
I'm impressed. I'm impressed when we go around to different colleges around the country, how those parts of the programs are really expanding. And the other thing I find is they're taking into account a broader spectrum of products. They're seeing the change in the industry. They're recognizing the convergence, and so they're expanding the type of programming that they're doing, the consoles that they're focusing on. They're taking into account moving lights and video and LED walls. So I think that regardless of the school that you're talking about, I've just visited several recently within the past 3 or 4 months that I've been really impressed with the programs that they've had going on.
Yeah, and to give you an idea of how firmly I believe in a college education, I just enrolled at St. Edward's University in Austin under something called an Individualized Bachelor of Arts, where I designed my own program. And I'm actually modeling it after Jacob Pinholster's program at Arizona State University. He has a program called the Interdisciplinary Digital Media and Performance, which basically is a combination of media servers, video production, and live performance. So, yeah, definitely go to college. Absolutely.
But that being said, the other thing that's great for those of us who are maybe past the point where we can, I guess you could always make time to go back, but for me, a lot of it is study on the fly. And I just really love the wealth of material that's out there on the Internet, in the PLSN library, where there are just a myriad of books that you can go and search out that'll get you up to speed on current technologies. And then there's so many things that people can be doing to get hands-on experience with things. I know you talk a lot about things like apprenticeships or doing volunteer work or things like that.
Yeah.
I think those are real keys in helping to grow your skill set.
Right. You can volunteer at churches. Lots of churches have moving lights and consoles. You can volunteer in theaters. You can even go down to your local production company and ask if you can use one of their consoles in the shop, or in exchange for sweeping the floor or cleaning gear or repairing cables. There's all kinds of work that production companies need to have done, and to have somebody in the shop sitting there doing that is worth it to them. So, yeah, do that. I hope that answers your question. The next thing I want to talk about is what I call successful meeting avoidance. This is one of my pet peeves. I'm a proponent of doing away with meetings entirely. Now, there are exceptions to that. I'm a member of the Technical Standards Committee, which is used to be ESTA, is now PLAZA, and now it's this Technical Standards Council. And those meetings are run by Robert's Rules of Order, and they have an end goal in mind. They have a set time limit, and things actually get done in those meetings. And it's because of the procedures that are followed, and there's no room for straying off of the agenda, and the agenda is sent out beforehand. But other than those meetings, I don't think I've ever been to a meeting that was actually productive. Usually they turn into bitch sessions, gripe sessions, and they wander off of the agenda, if there is even an agenda. So success, I've been lucky in that I've been in positions to where I've been able to avoid unnecessary meetings. And if you're in a position where you are calling meetings, you might want to consider some alternatives. And to help you think about that, go check out on TED.com Jason Fried's video, or his talk, entitled "Why Work Doesn't Happen at Work." In it, he says meetings are just toxic, terrible, poisonous things, and I can't agree more. So if you can avoid meetings, and I'm kind of laughing, but I'm deadly serious. I think most meetings are a waste of time. Embrace change. I do a lot of training seminars. I've seen basically two kinds of people who embrace change and people who avoid change at all costs. And guess which ones are quicker to advance in their careers? The people who embrace change. And let me tell you something. Right now, we are in a whirlwind of change. There are more changes in our industry right now than have ever been in the history of our industry ever. The estimates right now say that the amount of new technological information is doubling every 72 hours. That means that most of what you know is either obsolete or it's becoming obsolete very quickly. We've got new things like automation, networking, LEDs, media servers, wireless, battery technology, green lighting. There's new protocols like remote device management. There's streaming, ACN. There's, if you don't know what TCP/IP is, or if you don't know what Ethernet is, if you don't know what Power over Ethernet is, and these are all things that you're going to have to know very soon, very quickly. And here's something else to consider as well. In my opinion, one of the most exciting areas in our industry today is in automation. And this is from a guy who got in the industry when moving lights were new, and they were just revolutionizing the industry. They were changing the industry really quickly, very fastly, very rapidly penetrating the industry. But now I see motors connected to computers doing some incredible things. Last year at Fisher Technologies, or Fisher Technical Service in Las Vegas, I took a course on Navigator console programming, which is their automation console. And we got to play with motors that are hooked up to computers that are all networked together. And we did some amazing things with it. By the fourth day, the end of the fourth day, what we did is we were actually programming bowling balls to knock down bowling pins. And it was a lot of fun, but it was educational. And it really opened my eyes to the possibilities. If you want to get a look at what I'm talking about, just go to YouTube and type in the search engine there, Mercedes Museum. And you'll see 1,000 little ping pong balls, each attached to an automated winch that is mapped into a 3D video file. And it's doing some amazing things. That's just one example. There are tons and tons of those examples out there. But automation is happening. And automation is a combination of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computers and networking, and just all kinds of disciplines coming together. So it's really exciting. So embracing change is an important key to moving forward in your career.
I think that one of the things that's so critical about it is, just in my short time in this industry, I've seen so much new technology being introduced. And not only that, but then the advancement of existing technology. I mean, if you look at where the state of the market in LED was 5 years ago compared to where it is now, you know, both from a technical standpoint and also from a cost and efficiency standpoint, you know, it's something that really has just taken over a big chunk of the marketplace. And it's something where somebody who was used to doing lighting design with more conventional lighting, you know, 8 to 10 years ago, they've really had to adjust the way that they think about going forward with lighting, whether they're doing, you know, permanent installation, architectural type of things, or whether they're doing live events. It's just becoming, you know, there's so many technologies that are becoming so much larger a piece of it that you got to be open to change. And, you know, the other thing I know you and I have talked about in the past is how rapidly the pace of technology is changing and how it's continuing to accelerate. So there's no way that we can hope to stay current unless we embrace that change and really work hard to stay current. I have another question that I think might be good to bring in here. Lisa says that she's had a situation, you know, she feels like she's been middle of the pack or a bit higher for the past 10 years of her career, works constantly, is looking to move up the ladder, like to move into that top 10%. And, you know, are there any suggestions in terms of ways that you can advise people if they're looking to accelerate that curve, get to where they're looking to go, you know, maybe a little bit faster?
Yeah, well, that's really what this whole presentation is about, and there's a whole bunch of components to that. There's a whole bunch of pieces that all fit together. And just goes back through, you know, once this thing is recorded and it's online, Lisa, then go back and view it again. And if you can bring all of these elements together, then something very good is going to happen to you. And it may not happen overnight. It takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a lot of focus and drive and all those things we're talking about. But it will happen. And I have no idea how long you've been in the industry, but if you are new to the industry, then don't expect it to happen overnight. But if and you might have to start off doing some stuff that's not real glamorous, but eventually you will get there. Eventually, if you keep at it and you keep your focus and you have your goal in mind, it will happen. Sometimes it almost feels like magic when it all comes together, but it's not magic. It's the result of planning. It's the result of putting all of these pieces together. Beyond that, I don't know that I can give you specific recommendations unless you ask me more specific questions. And I hope that answers your question.
Well, you know, one of the things that I think ties in there, Richard, too, and it kind of relates to the slide that you're on right now in terms of building bridges. I think, you know, every industry has its key networks. But I think this industry, it is a lot about who you know and how well you network with people. Because I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody who was trying to get a start who did work with somebody and then got a recommendation from that person, or called back and said, hey, this is where I am right now, and you know, I'm trying to move ahead. Do you have any suggestions for me? And maybe that person had, you know, a gig that they were just overbooked and couldn't handle, and wound up, you know, giving them a lead to a good next step or a nice career move. You know, as you know, my wife is involved in career counseling, and one of the things that she's a major proponent of is to really work your networks, reach out to people, keep your industry contacts current, but make sure people are aware of what your goals are, and network them, not use people, but you know, just make people aware of what you're trying to accomplish, and you'd be surprised at how many people are willing to jump in and give you a helping hand.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and this is actually one of the easiest things to do, because half of it is just showing up on time and showing up with a smile on your face. And if you can get along with people, then that will take you a long way alone in the industry, because if people like to be around you, then the next time they're looking for a crew, then they'll call you. And what happens is that some of these people who are your coworkers will leave the tour and they'll go on to become production managers, and then they'll be responsible for putting the crew together, and that's when you start getting the phone calls, or maybe you'll be the production manager. But if you show up on time, which means early, in this industry, right? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. Show up. Make sure that you have a smile on your face. Make sure that you don't smell bad. Make sure that you have a positive mental attitude. Maybe have a good sense of humor, and get people to like you. Then that's one of the fastest ways to advance in the industry. Most people would rather have somebody who is okay technically, but just a joy to be around, than to have somebody who's really kick-ass at the technology, but is a real grump and a pain to be around. So,
no, I definitely agree.
Yeah, and after being in this industry for years and years, I've seen more employee-employer relationships inverted. One guy who used to be the employer is now the employee, and vice versa. You just see that all the time, because this is this industry morphs a lot, and it changes, and people grow up and they become different people, and they become more responsible, and they take more risks and more challenges, and end up in higher levels of position. And these are the people that you went to college with, the people that you did your first tour with, the people that you worked with at the first company you ever worked with. I can't tell you how many people I know who at one time or another worked for high-end systems, and are now spread throughout the industry all over the world. And that's what's going to happen if you're in this industry for any length of time at all. So don't burn bridges, but build them.
Exactly.
So
okay.
To kind of wrap up, some more resources. The one book that I keep going back to over and over and over again is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read that book many, many years ago, and I've since read a lot of books, but that's the one book that I find doesn't age, doesn't date. The advice in it is as useful today as it was 25 years ago. If you haven't read that book, I would highly recommend that you read it, and that you heed the advice. That quadrant with the priorities and the urgencies, that comes out of this book. So that's one very good resource. Another resource is all the training and webinars out there, and there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of good ones. And if you go to trade shows, you'll find them there. You can manufacturers often have training, and they'll be happy to train you on their consoles, because that's how they get people using them. There's also other webinars besides the ones Creative does, and Creative has some really good ones. Just go back through the ones that Creative has online that they've what do you call it?
Podcasts.
Podcasts. There you go.
Yep. Yeah. Basically,
So,
yeah. I'm always amazed when I go to trade shows or I'm out on the road on calls, and people will mention to me how they've downloaded previous ones because it's just a lot easier for them to listen to Howard Ungerleider or Jeff Ravitz or one of the other presenters that we've had talking about a particular key issue while they're traveling. So they bring it with them in the car, or they take it with them on the plane. So there's tons of resources like that are available, like you said, not just ours, but lots of other places that are focusing more and more on this.
Yeah, I got a Nook reader for Christmas, and it's loaded with podcasts and webinars. And in fact, one of my favorites is TED.com. Now my habit is I wake up in the morning, I turn on my Nook reader, and I go to TED.com, and I look for the latest post, and I watch. The talks are usually 15 to 20 minutes long. It's a great way to start the day, and it really gives you some really good ideas and some different perspectives. And it's not just about business, but it's about life and art and living life to its fullest. I would highly recommend that. Trade shows are another great source of information. In my opinion, I never really knew what the industry was about until I went to my first trade show. Once you go see all the manufacturers there in one spot, you see all the products there in one spot, and you start building networks of friends and other people who work in the industry, it's a real turning point in your career. And it's amazing how that opens your eyes and starts opening doors. So if you have an opportunity, definitely go to at least 1 or 2 trade shows every year. And lastly, sorry, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was just going to say, and the great thing is that although some of the smaller regional ones are not as broad-based as, say, an LDI or an Infocom or something like that, you do have a lot more regional-based activities now. You've got, smaller shows like USITT or WFX, which are, that one's for the church market, USITT more for educational market. But then you also find more and more manufacturers and or distributors that are sponsoring things like open houses, which are basically, mini trade shows.
I know Gray's been doing that, and in fact, Kevin and I did one at the University of Texas in El Paso. It was great. It's really fun. And Wybron has just launched their new truck. I know Martin's been doing some tours, and there's a lot of those traveling trade shows.
Traveling circuses. Yeah, we're putting the next one together right now because we've got some new consoles that we're representing, and we've got some new moving lights. So we're going to be traveling around the country, and we always make sure people are aware when we're going to be there, so they can come out and take a look. So it's a good way, because even people who are in the industry, in a lot of cases, they're so busy just trying to get their job done that they can't. It's difficult to stay current with all the new things that are going on. What are the new, better, more cost-effective solutions and things like that. So a lot of times, depending on some of those kind of activities, the open houses and things, where you can go and you can spend a couple of hours and get a really good preview, I think that's really can be key for somebody staying current with what's going on out there.
Right. And lastly, there's a lot of really good books and magazines out there. I don't watch much television, but usually I'll watch about 15 or 20 minutes before I go to bed just to kind of turn off my brain and relax a little bit. And the other night I was watching King of Queens, and it started off with the character is Doug Heffernan. He's a delivery truck driver, and his boss was called a meeting, and he's passing out these booklets and told everybody they had to read them, and then they were going to have to take a test, a competency test for their work. And Kevin James is the Doug Heffernan character. He said, well, the reason I got in this business is so I wouldn't have to read. And I thought it was pretty funny. But a lot of us get into this industry because we think it's going to be glamorous. We think it's going to be easy and fun. And the reality is it is fun, but it's not easy. If you want to keep up, if you want to advance in your career, it takes a lot of hard work. And when I got in this industry, there just weren't a lot of resources. There were a couple of magazines. There weren't many books. There was one book called the GTE Sylvania Lighting Handbook. I read it cover to cover dozens of times. It was kind of dry. It was informative. I got a lot out of it, but it's nothing like what is available today. There are all kinds of books on any subject that you're interested in, and a lot that you might not even know that you're interested in. So, take some time to peruse there's lots of sites where you can go look at the entertainment books. PLSN Bookshelf is one. APTXL is the Academy of Production Technology. So, you can check out aptxl.com and just go perusing through the library and see what you can find.
Yeah, Richard, that actually brings in your last polling question, which has to do with reading and why people do or don't do that. So the last poll we have here is basically what are the reasons that you don't currently read or stay current. Your choices are: I don't have the time, I don't have the interest, everything I need is available in digital format or online, I don't want to learn too much, or I do read a lot.
I like that. I don't want to learn too much.
Yeah, that's bid we ever. I don't think you could ever learn too much in this business.
Right. I put that in there because I'm curious to know how to reach more people. So if you would do us the courtesy of completing that poll, I would sincerely appreciate it. And then we'll try to take the information and do what we can with it. But and that pretty much covers what I wanted to talk about today. Are we getting any results on this poll back yet, Kevin?
Yeah, we're getting there. We're about 70% of the way there. So give people another couple of minutes. One of the things that you had mentioned, Richard, that we didn't really talk. I mentioned the open houses, but I think what we did at UTEP was a little bit unique, and we're going to be trying to do more of those in the future. Because I think that was more workshop oriented. We actually had a lot of things where we had we literally, in this case, we had busloads of high school students. We had lots of college students. We had local production companies. We had well over 100 people in attendance. And one of the things that we did there was we gave them some hands-on time. We let students come up and work with the consoles that we had. We let them play with the moving lights. We had Roscoe come in and do a scenic paint workshop and some other things like that. Richard gave some really interesting feedback and information in terms of how they could plan and grow their careers. So we had a really fun day there, and we're going to be looking to do more of those. And if you're on our opt-in list as far as a subscriber, we'll make sure you get notices of those when we're coming around to your area. We're probably going to be doing about a dozen of those around the country, purely educational in nature. We're not looking to sell anybody anything. Basically, just trying to keep you current on what's going on. Staying close with our friends and our clients. So basically, I think you can all see the poll now. Basically, we've got 24% that say they don't have the time. Not surprised. That's a tough thing for everybody. I know I usually fall asleep with a book on my chest each night because I can't get far enough into it before I conk out. 9% don't have the interest. 15% say everything I need is available in digital format. I'm sorry, Richard, but we got 0% that say they don't want to learn too much. So we've got an audience that's looking for education here.
All right,
so,
I love that.
And we got 52%, which is by far the majority, that says I do read a lot. So
well, good for them. Keep it up. Keep reading. Don't be a Doug Heffernan, okay?
Yeah, I think that's a great thing. Okay, before we wrap up and let you all go for the day, we usually open up to any additional questions. So if we've tried to stay current with things here, but if anybody's got any additional questions that they'd like to ask, please feel free, and Richard and I will try to do our best to answer those for you. I did have one interesting comment. I think it was Rick in our audience said that this is about making an investment in yourself. That there's a lot of things where you can't, especially in today's economy, you can't wait around for your employer to provide the education for you. I think a lot of it has to be self-initiated. You need to be willing to go out and make the effort and the investment on your own in order to grow. And I think that's maybe a change over the last 10 or 12 years or so. I think before that, when the economy was booming and employers, staffing wasn't as much of an issue. They had a lot more time and resources to put against employee training and helping grow the employee. I think now, particularly when you're looking to get an opportunity, it's really a lot about being self-motivated and finding the resources for yourself to go out and make it happen.
Yeah, those are some good observations, Rick. You're absolutely right. You're investing in yourself. I wrote an article about an island in the Pacific Ocean where it's called Yap, and they use stones, big giant stones that they carved in the shape of a 6 or 8 feet across. It weighs several thousand pounds, and they use them as currency. And one day they went out and they were bringing back one of these stone coins on their little bamboo boat, and a storm came along and it sunk the boat, and they lost the big giant stone that they had. The men made it back safely to the island, and they told everybody what had happened. And so they knew that this big giant coin was at the bottom of the ocean, yet they didn't have their hands on it. So everybody agreed that they were going to go ahead and allow them to use that for currency. So that stone has value even though they can't see it, they can't feel it, and they can't touch it. Well, education is the same way. You can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't touch it, but it has a lot of value. And a lot of times the people in our industry don't value it as much as they should, but really it is one of the biggest drivers of value in our industry. People who know how to do things and people who understand the basics and the fundamentals, those are the ones who are driving innovation and driving propelling the industry forward.
Okay. We had I'm not sure if it's a question. James is asking, how would you approach, say, things like local high schools I guess the question really is, are there ways that we could do more things with education? You and I both read a book recently, the Generation Y Innovation book, and one of the things it talked about was the fact that education in some cases in this country is falling behind. Are there things that we as an industry and individuals can do to maybe, get more involved, make recommendations, because I think part of this, too, is not just about how to learn yourself, but also how to pay back, how to give back to the community.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I've actually tried to volunteer at the local high school. There's a high school literally 2 blocks from my house, and I've tried to volunteer in their theater, and they won't. They won't reply back to my phone calls and emails. And I'm guessing it has to do with security and just kind of the sign of the times. But, the bigger issue, I think, is just our mindset. We really have to focus on education, and we need to make it a priority. And we need to pay the people who teach in those schools, because they're educating the future. They're educating our children, who are the future. And there are lots of countries around the world who know this and are completely more focused than the United States. And I suppose we have some attendees who are not in the United States. That could be from different parts of the world. But I know that, for example, Canada has a much higher graduation rate per capita than the United States, because they are more focused on education. I also know that when I go do training seminars north of the Canadian border, I get much better response. I get higher attendance, and I get a much more engaged group of people who do value education. So a lot of it is just a mindset. If we set our minds to value education, then we will naturally gravitate more towards that, and we'll naturally educate ourselves more. So I think it kind of starts at home. It starts with you. You've got to have the mindset that education is important, and then you need to educate yourself, and then help reach out to the community and help as much as you can. And you're absolutely right, Kevin. Giving back is really important too. I'm helping to put an African student through audio school at SAE in Cape Town, South Africa. I solicited my friends to chip in, and we bought him a Mac computer. We bought him software, and we've helped pay his tuition. And we're trying to get him through college. And hopefully that will turn into something bigger, maybe later on a formal organization. But yeah, you definitely have to give back, and it starts with education.
Yeah, I think what I've always been impressed with since we started this series is the willingness of people who are industry veterans. Yourself, Jeff Ravitz has been around for 30-plus years. Howard Ungerleider's been around since the 70s. A lot of the people that we've had that have been presenters volunteer their time. No vested interest on their part. There's they're not making any money by doing something like this. But it's really about giving back to the community and helping to educate other people.
Right.
Got a couple of other questions here I wanted to get into.
Can I just say this real quickly, Kevin?
Yeah, sure.
I know there's some people who signed up who have also contributed to help Titus, the African student. And if you're listening, Katie and some of the other people, I just wanted to shout out to you. Hey, thanks for joining us.
There you go. Thank you. So I've got Rick asking, how about getting credit at your local university or college for life experience? If you're
yeah, that's a good point. The program I signed up for at St. Edward's, I'm going through that exact thing right now, and they have something called the name of it escapes me, but that's exactly what they're doing. They're giving you credit. Well, they don't give you credit. What they do is you can apply to document your learning, what they call experiential learning. So in other words, they're not giving away credit. You have to document that you actually learned something from your experience in the real world. And from what I understand, it's a laborious process. But say, for example, they have a lighting design class Well, if you can document some of the lighting design plots that you've done and back it up with the paperwork and the maybe pictures of the show, and you can basically convince the professor that you know what you're doing, then you can get college experience for that. And it's a great way to get a lot of college credit quickly, and it's much more economical than paying for the class itself. For example, at St. Edward's, it's $670 per credit hour. So a 3-hour class would cost about $2,000 roughly, and you can it's called a portfolio. You write a portfolio, so you can portfolio out of that class for about $600. So it saves you quite a bit of money. And if you do that, some people have gotten as many as 40 college credit hours for doing that. So you can do one class, or you can do several classes, and get credit for it.
Great. Now, Steve has a question that I think is really interesting. He asks, is it important to decide between specialization and or being more of a generalist? And where his focus is, he's talking about board op, programmer, designer, content creator, or to try to do all of them. And I see an extension of that, which I'd like you to kind of talk to, is experience across multiple platforms. So, rather than necessarily being, say, just a Grand MA guy or just a Hog guy or whatever, what do you see now? Is specialization more the trend or the importance, or is being more of a generalist and having a broader platform going to help you grow your career?
Well, I think that's going to vary from person to person. Personally, I would be bored out of my head if I had to focus on one thing. I like doing different things. I do lighting design. I do I do several things. And granted, I'm probably not the best in the world at every one of those disciplines, but I think that I know that I'm able to satisfy the customer and get the job done well, and I'm proud of my work, and I've done some things that I wouldn't have been able to do had I not spread out like that. I think that there's a lot of risk in carrying all your eggs in one basket. If you happen to be, 15 years ago, if you were a Hog programmer, then you were doing all the gigs. So if you just focused on Hog and you never tried a Grandma or an Avo Lights console, then when the Hog 3 came out and then the whole world changed, production world changed, then you were out of luck. You had to either relearn or you were out of a job.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of value in learning as many different consoles as you can. And the fact is, even though the syntax is different, the concepts are basically the same. If you read Brad Schiller's book, The Automated Lighting Programmer's Handbook, he talks in very general terms about how to program a moving light console. And it's not console specific, but the concepts carry over from one console to the other. The only adjustment you have to make is to learn the specific syntax for that console.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, what I found that's really interesting is some of the guys that, to me, are some of the most prominent programmers in our business, and have been on a platform. Over the last couple of years, I've suddenly seen them expand platforms because it brings them more opportunity.
Right.
It doesn't pigeonhole them into, well, I can only do this tour because the LD wants to do it this way. So some of the guys that everybody would know their name have suddenly said that they weren't just going to be a Grand MA guy or a Hog guy or whatever, and they've actually expanded the platforms.
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody else have any other general questions that we can answer for you? I know, just to let you know, there are some things here that are specific to individuals. We will be answering those for people, or I will be answering those. We have all these captured, so I can get back to you and I can answer you via email once we're done. But is there anything else that's of general interest for the broad audience that anybody wants to ask?
Silence.
Yeah, well, it's silent. I'm trying to watch the screen and type, and and waiting to see if anybody has anything else they'd like to ask. But I think that we're pretty, we're pretty good in terms of getting everything done here today. I think we've caught up, and we'll, if that's it for questions, I will go ahead and wrap up today. I thank you all for attending. As I mentioned, we're going to be having down the road, Howard Ungerleider is going to be coming in to do a lighting design seminar. We've also got Jeff Ravitz and others who have made some commitments to doing some things down the road. So keep us in your email, and we'll be getting notice out to you when those events are going to be coming up. And I want to thank Richard for taking the time to spend with us today. And I want to thank all of you for taking some time out of your busy day to spend some time with us as well.
And thank you, Kevin, for hosting the webinar. And I'd like to thank Creative Stage Lighting as well. You guys are great.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right, great. All right, thanks everyone, and we'll look to talk with you soon. Okay. Have a great day.